Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Jason Mackey's First 10, a short version podcast talking all things Pittsburgh sports. And today is Saturday. Yes, Saturday, November 23rd. I normally do this Monday through Friday, but we're spacing out some content here. So, a weekend edition of First 10. You're in for a treat. Have a lot of stuff to unpack from the Steelers' loss to the Browns the other night. And, well, I also want to talk a little bit about what's ahead for the Steelers, some of the things that the loss to the Browns exposed. But first, I want to remind you that this show is brought to you by Edgar Snyder and Associates. If you're injured in an accident, you're probably wondering what's next. For over 40 years, Edgar Snyder and Associates has helped injury victims answer that question. Whether it's gathering evidence, collecting medical records, or dealing with insurance companies, Edgar Snyder and Associates has helped over 75,000 people handle what's next. Call 1-800-94-EDGAR or visit edgarsnyder.com for a free consultation. And remember, there's never a fee unless they get money for you. All right, so this was the trap game, right? This was the game the Steelers were supposed to avoid. They could avoid. The Browns weren't very good. The Steelers were. We're talking about the number one seed in the AFC, division supremacy, all these things coming off of how the Steelers were playing. Forget about that. Didn't work out. And the reasons why? Well, they were many. I focused on my column coming out of the game on Mike Tomlin, and I couldn't not. Mike Tomlin's record in Thursday night games against divisional foes is very bad. As you know, the Steelers do not fare well in those games. And that's, I think, a lot of the reason why we considered this a trap game. I think it's been 5 of 6 they've lost in Cleveland. The Steelers do not fare very well there. And it looked for a little bit, honestly, like the Steelers were going to get this thing. The Russell Wilson touchdown to Calvin Austin, Nick Herbig's big play, the strip sack to get the ball back, etc. And they did not get it done. Well, why did they not get it done? What sort of things can we unpack from this loss? What sort of things can we look ahead to next week, in about 9 days in Cincinnati? Well, Tomlin's decision-making. I didn't like it. I didn't like it on several levels. I didn't like at the end of the first half, just not using a timeout when he should have used the timeout to get the ball back. Didn't quite understand that. Some of the fourth down calls, didn't love them, but probably because they didn't work out, quite honestly. Tomlin electing to take the penalty in that weird illegal touching. Was it intentional grounding? There was a lot of confusion at Huntington Bank Field as to what the actual penalty was. They signaled intentional grounding, but I guess because of there being an eligible receiver in the vicinity, at least that's what we were able to glean. Still have not gotten a great explanation from that, but Justin Fields left in there on a 3rd and 6 to throw a pass. I'm not sure why you do that. To me, I want to have Russell Wilson attempt that pass. Russell Wilson had a weird game, by the way. Had a very good quarterback rating. I think it was 116.7. Threw for 270 yards, 270 or 290. Was effective at times in the passing game. But, again, this is the second straight week the Steelers have failed to score 20 points. They started slow on offense, elected for a Chris Boswell 58-yard field goal in their opening drive, which they missed. First 3 drives resulted in just a field goal. They didn't really get going until you had the Jaylen Warren touchdown run and then the Calvin Austin touchdown reception. Scored 2 touchdowns quick to make it a game. But again, just can't happen. I mean, the offense has to be more productive. One of the things that I think is a little bit concerning is the running game. Where that's gone. And that's not just Mike Tomlin, of course, but Arthur Smith as well, Najee Harris, the offensive line. This was not a very good game for the offensive line. Early on, Myles Garrett had his way with the Steelers. They were able to do a little bit in the second half, but that's something the Steelers should be concerned with again. But just all of this talk around Mike Tomlin, and that's sort of what this conversation to me keeps funneling back to. Before the game, we're talking about NFL Coach of the Year. He's pressed every right button. The decisions. He's had his team ready to play. He's game planned to stop Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels. Well, the Steelers did none of those things against the Browns. Jerry Jeudy, of all people, had a very good game. 6 catches for 85 yards. Jameis Winston had his way with the Steelers, and they didn't really have much of an answer. They created a few turnovers. I would say that's a positive, but again, you're not scoring touchdowns early. You're really not scoring anything early. The Browns, when they had to convert in key situations, this is something too. Kevin Stefanski, the Browns coach, he's hanging on by a very thin thread, right? He's going to try to win the game. He's coaching for his job. He's nothing to lose at this point, I guess, other than his job, which maybe he already figuratively lost. They were much better in those situations than Tomlin's Steelers. All right, so we're going to take a break in the middle of this thing. I want to get to a little bit more from this game before spinning it ahead to the rest of the season and how things look in areas where the Steelers should be concerned. But first, a 30-second message from the Bradenton Area Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Embrace the laid-back charm of island life while sinking your toes in the sand and discovering real, authentic Florida in the Bradenton area. Unspoiled beauty and pristine beaches, a vibrant waterfront downtown energized by local arts and culture, fresh Floridian cuisine with a flourish of rich history, and friendly locals ready to welcome you to this preserved paradise on Florida's Gulf Coast. Plan your visit today at BradentonGulfIslands.com.
And welcome back to First 10. We're normally here Monday through Friday, about 10 minutes, talking all things Pittsburgh sports, but focusing on the Steelers and the Browns for understandable reasons here on a Saturday. The conversation I've had this morning is a lot about Mike Tomlin and some decisions that he's made that I haven't necessarily liked, or at least coming out of this game that I didn't necessarily like. Two in the second half that I omitted early on. When Nick Chubb and the Browns had a chance to score, let him score. Let him score. At a 7-yard run, little under 2 minutes to go. Should have instructed your guys, just let him score, get the ball back, and answer. But yet they wasted time again on the clock. A timeout burned around all of that confusion I meant with the illegal touching. Tomlin burned a timeout. Would have been nice to have that late in the game, but they didn't. The second or the third one, I should say, this kind of spins it ahead to the personnel groupings and some of the odd things the Steelers are doing on offense. I didn't understand on the 2-point try throwing a fade route to Cordero Patterson. Of all people, I don't understand that one bit. There are a lot of people I'd throw a fade route to. Cordero Patterson is not one of them. George Pickens, sure, give him a chance to make a play. Pat Freiermuth actually had a pretty good game. That was something going into this. I kind of expected Pat to have hit one of his better games of the season, maybe his best game of the season. And he did. But bottom line, the Steelers did not make enough critical plays down the stretch. That was something that in the locker room afterward, a lot of guys talked about, and just as you would sort of expect, the most subdued, frustrated, disconsolate, I don't know what word you want to use, whatever locker room that we've seen this season for completely understandable reasons. So, okay, how did the Steelers fix this? Going forward, what did they need to do to get back on track? And I know nobody right now is really looking for silver linings, but there were a few here because I think it can maybe shake some things loose or force the Steelers to look in the mirror. One of them, I think, is protecting Russell Wilson. 4 sacks. That's the third time in the past 4 weeks that Russell Wilson has been sacked 4 times. I mentioned earlier this was not a good game from the offensive line. Still stand by that. They got better in the second half, but not good enough. Russell Wilson also holding on to the ball too long. I don't know if that needs to change the play calling, if that needs to change the blocking, if that needs to change the awareness. I mean, you can have a lot of different thoughts relative to that, but they need to do a better job of protecting Russell Wilson. Those personnel packages, how they're distributing the ball, don't understand it. Don't understand the excessive use of Michael Pruitt, Connor Hayward, Cordero Patterson. What are we doing here? Mike Williams saw 19 snaps, which is honestly about 18 more than I thought. Did not see him on the field at all. The Steelers gave up a 5th-round pick to get this guy. I don't understand where we're going with this thing. It has to be better. Now, Van Jefferson had a big catch. Calvin Austin made a couple plays. Okay, George Pickens had 1 catch. His other ones were small, but no problems with his usage. What I don't understand, though, is the overuse of the guys that I mentioned and the underuse of a guy like Mike Williams, who they brought in theoretically to do some things. The running game, talked about that a little bit earlier. Najee Harris at one point in this season looked like, we're having a conversation about should they have picked up his 5th-year option? Should they extend him? He's been so good. Well, he's been pretty quiet over the past couple of weeks. Just 104 yards in his past 2 games on 34 carries. That's an average of 3.1. Jaylen Warren per carry has been a little bit better, 4.3. Overall, the Steelers need to improve this. They've obviously got a lot of division games down the stretch. They're going to need a sufficient running game. The last one that sort of crept up on me that I didn't necessarily see coming, but saw this against the Browns. Nick Herbig had that strip sack, but that was it for the Steelers. The Browns, meanwhile, now have allowed an NFL high 47 sacks. The pass rush, you don't need me to tell you how important that is to the Steelers' success, but right now they're on pace for just 38. It's 38.6. So we'll call it 39 sacks this season. That would be their lowest sack output since 2016. Now, there's a lot going on there, right? Alex Highsmith is hurt. Nick Herbig was hurt. Teams are doing a whole ton to stop T.J.Watt. But coming out of this one, the Steelers need to find a way to harass opposing quarterbacks more. You figure they have Lamar Jackson again, Jameis Winston again. You still have dates with Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, 2 with Joe Burrow. Have to do more to put pressure on opposing quarterbacks, whether that's T.J.Watt, whether that's Cam Hayward. Doesn't really matter. If you want to look in the mirror and maybe blitz a little bit more, the Steelers have not blitzed a ton, but have to get the pass rush in order. All right, thanks so much for watching us on a Saturday. Normally, again, these are Monday through Friday, but appreciate the adjustment. We'll be back here on Monday morning. In the meantime, make sure you like and subscribe. You can get all of this content and so much more from our Post-Gazette team. Happy weekend, everybody. Talk to you on Monday. Thanks for watching First 10.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.